Hello and welcome to Sonic Lore. In today's video, I'll be reading Shadow's cover story from the Sonic Channel wallpaper. A full moon overlooked the starry skies above Mission Street, a trendy avenue lined with businesses and shops. On the rooftop of one of those shops stood Sonic, who looked upon the night sky. He had arrived just to take a look at the modest light show the stars would put on for tonight. But, as was usually the case for him, Sonic had come all too early for it. He gazed down upon the bustling city to kill some time, when he spotted a black hedgehog fighting something on the street across the way. It was Shadow. Shadow made for a formidable opponent as the one person who could go head-to-head with Sonic in every way. He was a level-headed sort who thought the ends justified the means so long as it was in the service of his goals. It didn't mean that he didn't always side with the good guys, yet he would still show a kind of purity, hesitant though it would be, when he would occasionally fight against Sonic's crew. But what was he doing here? Finding it odd, Sonic jumped down from the rooftop, heading towards where Shadow was before the remains of three military drone beetles tumbled out onto the street. They had been mercilessly torn apart, spitting sparks and black smoke all the while. That was not normal. Sonic had his suspicions about who had done the deed as he paid Shadow a visit. "Yo, Shadow, having fun there?" "None of your business. Stay out of my way," he replied curtly. With that, Shadow retreated into the darkness in a heartbeat, but Sonic wasn't one to lag behind anyone. Soon enough, their high-speed chase went down on both sides of Mission Street. After running on walls and jumping from rooftop to rooftop, they crossed over one another in the middle of a tunnel, accumulating in a mid-air scuffle for a brief moment. Then, Shadow unleashed a lightning-quick axe kick towards Sonic, who whipped out both hands and blocked it readily. He blocked it? I couldn't dodge it. Shadow stiffened for an instant before he leapt back to create some distance between them. "Why are you following me?" he said irritably. "Well, I wouldn't want to take the rap for something you did again." "Ha, not everything's about you. I'm busy, so I'll be cutting this short." After casting Sonic a glance, Shadow suddenly took out a flickering jewel, a Chaos Emerald. "Hold it! Wait! Chaos, control!" In an instant, a dazzling light flared from the emerald. Then, when it had faded, Shadow was nowhere to be seen. Chaos Control. It was one of Shadow's signature moves, which used the power of the Chaos Emerald to distort space-time to warp elsewhere. The Chaos Emerald that he had used, which had teleported away with Shadow, was also far from its full power, having been spent in a previous battle. Sonic only looked upon the night sky as he was left on his own. Shadow. Several minutes later, on the other side of the main street, Shadow had entered an unusually large bank without a sound. The remains of another ruined beetle rolled by his feet. Here it is. There's no mistaking it. An armed beetle appeared from a corner of the room, only for Shadow to destroy it right after. As he took down security guards that tried to stop him, he kept forging his way up to the second floor, where the bank's safe laid. After he had finally reached the central safe, the first thing he saw in front of its solid metal door was Sonic, who idly twirled the key card to the safe between his fingers with a grin. He had tracked down Shadow's location with an energy detector he had borrowed from Tails before, and stolen to the bank via another route. When the military beetles were in the city before, not a single alarm had been raised, even though they had been destroyed. What was more, there had been shots fired there without so much as a warning either. At any rate, Sonic got to thinking that something wasn't right. "So, what do you want in exchange for the key?" "Why am I even asking? You just want to know what's going on, since this whole thing's piqued your interest." Shadow sighed sharply, unamused as he looked up and started explaining the night's events in order. "This building may look like a bank, but it's only a front," he continued. "It actually hosts a weapons research laboratory. is to investigate a strange capsule-shaped generator that was confiscated from the doctor's base from his last battle. They're developing weapons in the middle of town in secret, as unbelievable as it sounds. He eventually started walking forward as he kept talking. I received intel that the capsule is a time bomb in disguise that will detonate within the next 24 hours, with apparently enough power to wipe out half the city. I didn't trust what they told me. That's why I'm here. What about you? Shadow stopped just short in front of him, an unspoken challenge in his stare as he leveled Sonic with it. Several seconds passed. Who just asked someone that? Sonic found himself at a loss for words, the sudden question catching him off guard. But then, an alert reacting to an abnormally high energy source sounded from his detector, which pointed towards the inside of the safe. I'm going to trust what Tails' machine tells me. Smirking Shadow's way, Sonic swiped the keycard through the reader on the safe. With a click, a heavy metallic clang resounded from inside it. Unbothered, Shadow reached for the knob to the safe, but then, the safe door swung open as a swarm of horrified researchers poured out of it, fleeing for their lives. Run! It's gonna blow! Emergency sirens started sounding all over the facility as people made their escape. The whole building descended into an uproar. When Sonic and Shadow rushed into the safe, they found a capsule larger than either of them had imagined it to be, measuring 1 meter in diameter and 2 meters in length. An intense light emanated from its glass body as it rested on top of a laboratory table, protected by an electromagnetic barrier. Then, with the worst possible timing, the hordes of security beetles deployed around the laboratory started mounting their assault on the 2 trespassers they had zeroed in on. Man, these guys don't know when to quit. Shadow, you handle the bomb. In the blink of an eye, Sonic took care of 3 beetles handily as Shadow furiously raced out of the shockwave he had left behind. The electromagnetic barrier pulsed with shockwaves that he could sense the closer he got, but that faded the second he touched it, because Sonic had found and broken the generator for it mere moments beforehand. And then, Chaos Control! A ring of light sprung forth from Shadow's Chaos Emerald and consumed the room. Then, when it vanished, neither hide nor hair of the bomb was left at the scene. A few seconds later, an explosion went off far up in the sky above Mission Street. A thunderous roar brushed the ground in its wake, birthing a fireball so big that it could almost have been mistaken for another moon. The explosion was a delight to see for Sonic, who gave a thumbs up as he jumped down from a window. At the same time, where Shadow already was outside with the Chaos Emerald, he looked upon the same spectacle with a look of dissatisfaction. He had really wanted to send the capsule to outer space, but this was the best the Chaos Emerald could do while it was still worse for wear. He then handed the emerald off to Sonic. Shadow? I've no need for a fake like this, weak as it is, but you've a soft touch. I figure handing it off to you may well be able to restore its power, or something along those lines. Sonic looked amazed as he took the Chaos Emerald in one hand. I was going to thank you for a moment there, but never mind. Why are you following me? Shadow turned around to aim the question at Sonic, who followed after him with a grin on his face as he headed into a small path that tapered off the other side of Mission Street. I'd like to ask you why, he responded, both hands circled around the back of his head as he gazed up at the night sky. When were you one to work behind the scenes in order to keep people safe? I'm not interested in anything of the sort. You think I care about what happens to others? I just can't stomach the fools of this planet who act with no regard for others. That includes the doctor, as well as whoever involves themselves with you too. Don't get the wrong idea. Several seconds of silence passed. Sonic smirked at the grim look on Shadow's face. Okay, I hear ya. You take care of yourself now. Though, you know, I'll bet plenty of folks will be wanting to thank you if anything like what happened today came out and all. That's absurd. Even the thought of that. Shadow stopped in his tracks and turned around, fed up and just about to tell Sonic to be quiet, when Sonic had raised his right hand to point at the glowing full moon that backlit the faraway city lights as he looked at Shadow. Moreover, floating just above the moon was the space colony Ark, facing their way. Shadow couldn't help but gasp at the Ark, at the way that it seemed so detached from the rest of the scenery, at how it seemed divine, even with the way the moonlight shone on it from below. The Ark had carried both hope and error with it. It was where Shadow was born, where he had spent much of his time with what was precious to him, and where he had lost a loved one. He had sacrificed so much to protect this planet, the remains of which were now suspended in a vacuum. Once a year, there was one night that the Ark would appear just above the moon as a natural satellite, as its orbit would so happen to do. One of Mission Street's perks was how it offered a good place to view it from. That, plus how the warm city lights shone on the sea, how the light showed the night sky would offer looking out on that frigid, unfeeling second moon, as it were, meant that it was one of Sonic's favorite places to be. Shadow silently gazed upon the Ark. No one understood what he could be thinking at the moment, how much of the truth, and how many memories of those past events were still left etched in his heart. But the very fact he was silent seemed to provide an answer to Sonic's question. Taking it as such, Sonic slowly lowered his hand. Shadow watched as he did, finding the motion telling, before Sonic pointed at his own face with that same hand, showing nothing but a wide grin. "You waste my time," Shadow spat. He went towards a motorbike parked behind a thicket on the road, a large one for military use, which he had seemed to prepare in advance, and mounted it. Sonic looked like he was about to say something, when Shadow revved the engine to deny him the chance to. There's no need for two. A full moon overlooked the starry skies above Mission Street, a trendy avenue lined with businesses and shops. With that, he bolted off at full throttle. Sonic made no move to chase after him. Though he always sported a grin on his face, there was some part of it that showed a tinge of regret as he watched Shadow go. Warm lights lit up across the peaceful city, as if to drive out a lone shadow that had been there before it made its leave. Its presence was slight, so slight that no one would stop and pay any heed to it. The only one who would, though, was the so-called moon that looked down upon the hustle and bustle in the city. The moon that would keep watching over that shadow for a long, long time to come. And that's it for this video of Sonic lore. If you enjoyed it, then please comment, like, and sub for more. Thank you.